Good evening, and how is everyone tonight? So, hopefully, this will go better than this morning one did, because basically, what happened was it never went out on most of the social media platforms. Anyway, I just carried on, but obviously, it didn't really reach many people. So, anyway, how is everybody doing in terms of intermittent fasting? Obviously, the whole idea of doing the 1 to 3 day fast at the end of January was because if you've been really doing the intermittent fasting, you're probably going to be ready, a lot more in control, get a lot more energy, a lot more enthusiasm. It's light, much lighter in the mornings and at night. And I think, it's definitely a time for going, right, okay, what can we create? How much vitality and health can we get into our bodies and lives this year? Because so many people have not been feeling well. You're hearing all these stories about my grandson said to me, I've got that 100-day cough. It's like, bloody hell. He has got a terrible cough, and he's had a temperature, and it's, that was before I went away. So, yeah, I think, whether you're picking up the bug and then trying to get better, certainly I think most people you talk to know somebody who's not been well. So there's never been a more important time to learn about your body and all the things that you can do, especially for free, that are super powerful to help you feel better. Now, fasting is just an absolute no brainer in my book, although I know it terrifies people, the thought of not having food, and certainly not having the food for days. um, so it's a really good idea if you want to join, even for 24 hours or 18 hours, 20 hours. It's, start where you're at, choose a number of hours you feel you would be able to do. So I stopped eating today at 3:30, and that'll be me till 3:30 on Thursday, because that's really good. It means it's 2 full days really without food. And then Thursday I'll be able to have something in the afternoon if I need it. So I've done loads of fasts, so I know that, one of my big things is I do go to bed early because I tend to feel hungrier at night. And then when I wake up in the morning, I feel fine. Every single fast I've had has been a very different experience in terms of detox symptoms. Sometimes I've had absolutely none. Sometimes, well, last one it was 5 days, mind you. Day 4, I was just like in my bed. Well, it wasn't in my bed. I was on a sun lounger. It was in Malta. So if you're toxic, if you've been eating a lot of crap and you've not really reined it in again, you have to be careful because you can make yourself feel worse if suddenly you stop eating and the body starts going into a state of autophagy, which simply means it's like you've 80% of your daily energy is going to digest your food. The body's got all that energy and time back, and it can overload your liver, basically. And that can make you feel pretty crappy. So do something that's wise. Choose a wise time frame for you. If you're already like been intermittent fasting for the whole month, you'll be absolutely ready to do 3 days. And if not, you can do 1, you can do 2, and you can build up. It's such a powerful healing tool. And, it's one of these things that I've known about it for a long time, done it occasionally, obviously do intermittent fasting a lot. And then when you go back into the research of why you do it, and you're just like, oh my God, this is an absolute no-brainer. If you have any serious autoimmune disease, and I'm not saying just fast until you're better, but build fasting in some way into your life because, well, it costs you nada and you get so much back from it. So we know in terms of inflammation, which a lot of people is the root cause, and I can tell you right now, you can breathe and do as much cold water as you want and it can help your inflammation, but it might not be enough. So the food, taking the food out, the adrenal response, which is so many people I'm seeing on our devices running on adrenaline and cortisol, and that puts the body under extreme stress. So switching that off is really important. Fasting, again, you can do that. Now, another question a lot of people ask is, well, like, what would you do? Do you exercise? Do you go into cold water? And the reality again is, if you're used to doing fasting, you can do all of that. If you're not used to doing it, I wouldn't put my body under any extra stress. Walk, that's a really nice thing to do. Meditate, do some conscious connected breath work, some meditation, just some really motivating movie or documentary or whatever. You will, if you've not done it before, it's the distraction of not eating. What I find is once I decide I'm not doing it, it's just like, that's it. This is how it's going to be. So that's the way my mind works. I'm not saying I wouldn't get hungry and just think, ooh, I'd love to eat that. But obviously, we can use EFT. We can really, I try and identify, if I was saying in my live this morning, watch Society of the Snow, the story, or on Channel 5, it is the documentary on the guys that survived the Andes crash. Start to really understand what hunger, true hunger, and cold and suffering is, and realise that none of us have ever been there. And to not eat when we eat so much, and we have been eating probably so much over December, January, to take 3 days off really isn't that big a deal. I've got a friend who did a 40-day water fast. I mean, I can't even imagine that. But yeah, there's all religions. There's loads and loads and loads of science around, what you can achieve. And as I say, the biggest thing is it's free and everybody can do it. Everybody's the capacity. If you're I mean, obviously the usual, if you're pregnant, if you're in loads of meds, you need to be very careful. Take some guidance from somebody. But if you're just like me, like to try different things in your own body, maybe you've never really had the inclination or it's scared you, the idea of fasting, then it's good to do it with a group and you can all, laugh about it together. People do crack and eat things, that's why it's a good idea to say, right, well, let me do 24 hours. So say you started tonight at 7 and you do till tomorrow night at 7. You can drink water only. You can drink it hot or cold. So when you get to that time tomorrow night, you might think, actually, I could probably go till tomorrow morning. So you can, it's depends on how your mind works. I'm kind of big picture, so I'm like that. Right, I'll do that. I'll go for that. Whereas that can scare some people into actually not trying it at all. So it's a really good idea to break it down into bite-sized pieces. And even if you say, right, well, normally I fast till 10, I'll fast till 3, see how I get on, and just observe the mind and the stories that you're telling yourself, because you maybe have already created a story that says you can't do it, and you can. You just don't have a strong enough desire. I think with the level of autoimmune disease that we're seeing around us, even if you don't really feel physically that you're unwell enough that you need to boost your energy or your vitality, it's still a really good idea to learn how to do it so that you know you can do it, so that you're ever unlucky enough to get diagnosed with anything horrible, then that's a protocol that you know how to do, you know how to go into, you know how to come out of it. And intermittent fasting really has been the lead in for this specific challenge. And I know one of my friends, Marion, she's already started today. Maybe some of you have already done them. And some people like to work very much with the moon. For me, this is very much about the timing and working it in with lots of other things. So if you have the luxury of being able to do it yourself when when the moon's full, etc., then that's fine. But I've never really gone into too much detail about all that stuff. I just go, right, okay, this is when I'm going to do it, and this is how long I'm going to do it for. So the longest I've ever fasted for was 10 days. So it becomes, and I did 7 days in juice as well with Jason Vale. It's interesting, because before you do it, sometimes you think, well, I'll get used to it. But the harsh reality is the longer you do it, the hungrier you get. So 3 days is a really good kickoff, and you get so many benefits when you go over that 48 hours. Lots of healing benefits, and how the body responds. Even, so you can build it in. So maybe you do one every 3 months. You could even do it every month, depending on what's wrong with you. Talk to somebody. Tons of data and research on the internet. So if you're having issues, you don't have time or money, then this is a really brilliant way. And you can, if you have headachy, if you drink a lot of coffee, if you drink a lot of fizzy juice, etc., then that's a real chance that you'll get a headache. And if you do, you just drink lots of water and probably time it that you can lie down or do some EFT, some tapping around any symptoms that are coming up. You can also use coffee enemas, so that that would assist the detox process. So, has anybody got any questions? I wanted just to go in a little bit tonight about the psychology of it and how we believe that we can't do it when we absolutely can. And I think, again, if you go and watch that movie, that documentary about how their 10 weeks and one day they were stuck in the mountains for, with no food. And you probably know the story. They ended up having to eat their dead friends, to stay alive, because there was absolutely no food up there in the high alpine and deep, deep snow. Um, and it really does make you realise, that luckily most of us are never ever pushed to that extreme. But the unbelievable survival mechanisms of the human body and the human being, even to this day, they reckon give somebody the best, Gore-Tex gear. They would never be able to hike out of that space that these boys managed to hike out of. It just shows you what we're capable of. How does it affect parasites? Not that I know if I have any. That's a very good question. It will. I mean, parasites are cheeky wee monkeys because it's a bit like 3 days is probably not going to be enough to kill most of them. So you would have to be looking at a series of protocols. If parasitic infections is an issue that you're faced with, and flukes, which I'll tell you right now, pretty much everybody I know is, because if you travel to foreign countries, and I've eaten lots of food, and it's just the way it is. We pick up. I've done a lot of traveling for long periods of time, and but even if you go on holiday, you can pick up stuff, and obviously from your pets, even though you deworm them, you still get stuff from them. And most of the time, it's a bit like mold. If your immune system is on its A game, and you're kind of keeping yourself in balance, etc., then these things can't take over. But what's happening to a lot of us now is that the pond, the digestive system, has changed the pH of it, and we now have a place where these things can thrive and get completely out of control. And of course, as we know, they eat our vitamins and minerals, and they can cause havoc in our organs as well and stop them from working. And also leaky gut, which is another thing that's massive problem for a lot of people. The gut's leaking, things get into the bloodstream and cause havoc with our whole ENT system and our blood, and our skin. So fasting will absolutely impact all of this. The other thing I need to keep going on and on about is you don't heal the body in 5 days. Can you have an impact in a 3-day water fast? Absolutely, and you will feel brilliant at the end of it. Even if it's just the joy of eating food again, but you absolutely will feel great. It's such a phenomenal. It just gives you a lot of power to realise that you can do it. It's very, very good for your mental strength, and obviously really good for your clarity in your brain. But anything that we're looking at, parasites, fungus, candida, leaky gut, autoimmune issues, where and another thing we're seeing, this high adrenal response, nervous system shot to hell. All of these things, you're not going to impact them in a week or so. No, you can't have lemon. You can't have anything. Water is water. Nothing, absolutely nothing, nada, if you're going to do it properly. You don't give the body anything to do. You're just flushing through. You wouldn't have a shower with lemon juice, would you? So this is what you're trying to do, is have this internal shower. But we have to be looking at the longer game, and candida can take months, like up to 18 months and 2 years to really get the pH and the terrain, the bioterrain back into balance. Um, that's a really good point. Struggle to sleep when fasting. Any tips, please? Now, this happens to me because obviously a lot of us we just eat and then we just get the big protein hit and we pass out at night. So that has happened to me on quite a few occasions. I can't quite remember with 3 days because the last one I usually do them a wee bit longer. But if you cannot sleep, then you have to be prepared through the night to have stuff on your, I don't know what, your phone downloaded if possible. Breath work, meditation, visualization. You know, we with the biofeedback and all the energy stuff that we're doing, it's all about light and information. And the more light you can bring into the body, and you can bring it in with your imagination and your very clear intention. So you can use that time if you are awake to do something that's going to assist and help your body, or listen to a really motivating podcast. Now, because really you're more likely to fall asleep if you have something to do like that. Some people get up and journal. There's really, you're the reason usually you don't sleep is because the body is trying to. Well, we know as soon as we go into that into the circadian rhythm, the body starts going through the organs and cleaning everything up, and that process can wake us up. So it really depends. But the other thing that happened to me was I'd get very, very connected. I actually started when I did the 10-day one, I started seeing things, which is pretty cool. Because your vibration obviously goes way up and you're not going to need the same things as you would need when you're filling the body full of, slightly denser foods, etc. So that would be my advice, Claire, especially when it's just going to be 2 nights. Get prepared for what happens. Obviously, if you're working and you're not sleeping at all, that's a slightly different situation. You might find that you sleep better because you've not been if you've been doing the intermittent fasting all through January, you should have a pretty good idea now. It should not be that much different to that. But again, most of us are so out of balance and out of connection with nature and the circadian rhythm that sometimes you just don't know what to expect. But the big thing is not to resist what's happening. If you do wake up and you're like, oh my God, that's me awake, just go, right, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to meditate, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to listen to this podcast, I'm going to pray, I'm going to journal, or I'm going to, if you were dreaming, write about your dreams. All of these things are very healing, and they have a hugely, what's the word I'm looking for? They really help the body to process stuff that's coming through, information, and it can be a form of letting go. But we also need to talk again about visualization, the power of our minds. And if you know anything about Joe Dispenza's work, you'll understand that for us to hold our focus and observation, if you have a health issue right now, you see it better. And what most of us do is we're not very good at focusing, and I 100% include myself in that. But if you're awake through the night, then use that time to really focus and visualize all this light coming in. And obviously, when the light comes in, the dark cannot exist. And you're really gently just using this light to flush out and heal whatever it is that needs to be healed. There may be something very specific. Liver can be getting challenged, not just with alcohol, but with just the foods, overcooking, processed foods. Just to, we've got all the emotional stuff that goes on around the organs as well. So just holding that light and visualizing it for as long as you can. And you probably could find a guided one as well to do that. But we've known for decades that visualization helps people with cancer. There's lots of data around that. But use it before you get any, and learn how to focus and communicate with the organs, because they are sitting, listening to you. And of course, normally we're trying to sail them away in the direction of fear and anxiety instead of, melting into the state of ecstasy and joy, which allows the body to heal itself. Lilia, how can a low mood when your body is saying something to you? Well, again, I would use EFT because it's very, very quick. I'm looking at ways now because this whole kind of choosing what you think, this is what I wanted to talk about tonight is your mindset around fasting. Then, oh, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be this, oh, I'm going to detox, I'm going to have a headache, and I can't do it, I've got no willpower. All the stories we've got about ourselves, which are bullshit. And then if you do have a low mood, and we all know it's when we're down and when we're low that we make poor choices, it's just the way it is. So again, going, right, okay, well, that could happen. Another great thing to do is pack your liver with castor oil or any organ, pack your heart with frankincense, rose oil. You basically anything that you're just like, treat yourself like a child. What can you do to help them feel better? And have things that my sauna is my absolute go-to place, and I love my red light as well. If you don't have that, I also have healing music. There's loads of stuff you can get for free. So have something that you can just put on. Even like there's so many brilliant healing frequencies and beats on YouTube now. You can have something like that on very quietly in the background. Obviously, I don't know what your work situation is, where you're at, but if you're at home or if you can have earphones in, then you can just do something like that. But tapping is really the best way. If you start to feel low, it's just real tap and say, I'm feeling myself getting low. I want to eat, and it also, if there's all sorts of stuff comes up when you take food out the equation: rage, anger. There's loads of emotions can and might come up, but they also might not. Take it from somebody who's been doing it for ages, and sometimes you sail through it. I've got no idea how I'm going to feel tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm working these days, but I actually prefer to be busy because it distracts me and I forget. And quite often, I can go a whole day without eating anyway because I don't think about it if I'm busy. So it's the psychology. Use EFT, and what I'll do tomorrow is I'll actually start specifically giving you little quick videos to manage any chatter. There's a great. I was listening to a good podcast as well with David Goggins, I think his name is, and he came from a really hard place, and is just a big proponent of just hard work. Just shut up and go on with it. And counteract that voice in your head that says you can't. Yes, you can. Yeah, oh, it's too long. Oh, no, it's not. You're just continuously, that dialogue that we have, we tend to have that critic, that says we're not good enough, we're not going to be able to do it. Well, does it really work? Will I feel better? Will it work for me? All the stuff that voice says. And then you can come back and go, it does work. It absolutely does work. And I absolutely can do it. Will I suffer some days? And another brilliant podcast with Andrew Huberman and Peter and that guy, David Goggins, actually, he was saying there's part of our brain now that responds when we do things we don't want to do. Now, nobody really wants to fast, let's face it. I don't think there's that many people really want to get in ice. We do it because, and probably don't want to go to the gym either. We do it because we know we've got a benefit at the other side. But this part of the brain, what's really interesting is when we're always like, oh, I'm cold water adapted. I can just go out now and go into an ice bath without thinking about it. But my brain then will not have that expansion because I now want to do it. This is crazy, right? It's very, very new science, according to Andrew Huberman. So it's almost like the body's like, come on, do something you don't want to do. And it actually responds, and it knows that we don't want to do it. And it's almost like going, this is amazing. I mean, how incredible is this? I just think that, what we're learning about the body, and also the thing is, how quickly time passes. It'll be Thursday before we know it. So it's, it really is, it's all up here, and it's just about, really going, nah, this is happening. When, and my big gripe is that it cannot be that only rich people can heal, and people that, have got easy, the people around them. I just can't accept that. So I really think that these things, breath work, cold water, all the stuff that we can do for free, and fasting, that may be your biggest, and intermittent fasting, don't underestimate that, because you'll get a result even when you don't change your food, if you change the times that you eat your food and drink your drink. It's categorical. We've already got these testimonies coming in. It's an absolute no-brainer. Then you can start adding in a day here or 2 days, prevent yourself from getting sick. We all know when we're not on our A game. So that's the time before you start and having to get a diagnosis, you're just like that, right? What am I going to do now? I can fast, I can get back on the intermittent fasting, I can up my veggies, I can get, well, they reckon maybe 4 tablespoons of sauerkraut or some fermented thing a day is really going to help. Another tip, going to bed at night, this is again comes from Andrew Huberman, just put a tablespoon of water into your mouth for last thing at night and first thing in the morning and swirl it around and swallow it, because the microbes in here are the ones that are going to end up in your gut. So this is a really good way to deliver the microbes back down into the digestive system, because we know now it's this whole ecosystem of microbes that are repairing and restoring, and some of them can actually come out the cell membrane to get what they need and come back in. I mean, it reminds me of ants. You're just like that going, it's just too mental to actually get your head around. But obviously, if our bioterrain, if our ecosystem is not balanced, and there's things in there stealing and things that have got out of hand, then fasting for sure is going to be a hugely, hugely powerful thing, protocol for you to have and to be able to use any time you need it. And I think, as well, if you're a young mum, I keep saying young mum because to me, anybody can have a baby, it's still young. But mums that are struggling with so many things right now, again, just say right from 2 o'clock today to 2 o'clock tomorrow, I'm not going to have any food, and see how you feel. And maybe do that once a month. And honestly, once you create the habit of it, it's not that big a deal. And you're given 80% of your daily energy, maybe more than that if you've got dysbiosis in the gut. You're given all that energy. For the next 3 days, our body's going to have all that energy for restoration, regeneration, and repair. And definitely, if you're getting older like me, then it's a no brainer. Most of the time, we're wearing the body out because we're never giving it a rest. So, again, fasting, powerful, powerful anti aging tool as well, which is just simply degeneration as well. And I don't want to go into all the technical details of fasting because, to be honest, it really doesn't matter. You can study that stuff yourself. The biggest thing is, it's not the knowledge, as I keep saying, it's the behaviour. Can you do it? And we're supporting you through this. And we'll have a laugh and we'll be honest and we'll say, my God. We'll tap together. We'll drink more water together. And yeah, pee like a horse, because the more you drink, the more you shrink. You're washing out. Because what we're trying to do with any kind of detox, whether it's spiritual, physical, emotional, or mental, is we're trying to get stuff that's in the body. Remember, at its essence, the body is light and information. And what we're doing is washing out the old, outdated information. And a parasite is simply information, it's a frequency. So we're washing that out. And when we get our vibration up, none of these things that cause disease can exist. And you get your vibration up hugely by reducing how much we eat. And, I love eating as much as the next person. But, and that's why intermittent fasting works really well for me. You can really focus in on these 2 great meals a day. But taking the food out for a few days in terms of healing and in terms of, what do you call it? Economy, the most economical way to heal. Do you have a go-to Last Supper before a fast? Any tips? That's another good question. I just had roast chicken and broccoli and a bit of sweet potato and a gravy. So that's kind of hopefully going to make me not hungry, too hungry. A lot of people would start doing juices. 3 days, to be honest, for most of us is not that big a deal. If you're going to go into, a much bigger fast and there's, if it was going to be a week long, for example, you'd be starting to look at, right, okay, more so how you're going to come out of it than how you're going to go into it. I would just be thinking, have something nice that's going to fill you up, and then, so that you're like that, right, that's me psychologically, that food's fine. The body will digest it tonight, and then I will go to my bed and be ready just for the cleanse to happen. And as I say, if you do have any detox symptoms, then, and if you don't manage it, some people don't. I've had some hilarious stories and of people like just opening the fridge and just grabbing a whole chicken and eating it, and just not able to do it. But practice. We know, again, from Michael Mosley's Brilliant Success, the more you try, the more likely you are to succeed, the more determined you'll get. So don't worry if you don't do 3 days, or if you can't, maybe you've got work, maybe you've got other commitments. Just try one day, and then another time you can try 2 or 3. And what happened to me, the very first fast I did, I remember it was years ago. I mean, it must have been 40 years ago. I read it in a magazine and I thought, I'm going to try that. And I thought, so I did a day, and then I just did another day, and then I did 5 days. And then everybody started saying to me, "You're looking amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, I just did 5 days water fast." And it was just, I just kept going. It just wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. It's absolutely all up here. So yeah, and if you watch Society in the Snow, you'll realise that you've never actually been that hungry, ever, and that you can survive quite well without food. Not just survive, thrive. So, has anybody got any more questions before I shoot off? Um, yeah. So, as I say, I actually started. Well, I had my last meal today at 3:30. I was finished by 3:30. So that's me kind of on it now until Thursday at 3:30. So that's psychologically quite a good way to do it. But it's up to you. You may want to just do 3 straight days. It's 72 hours. And if you've got any questions, we've got a chat growing in the group. I think we'll just probably stay in that one. I'll need to check with Kirsten about that, whether that's a good idea. Um, and I'll be on the in the hub, talking about it as well and seeing how everybody's doing. And you can take your actual. I mean, I never weigh myself or measure myself. You can tell straight away when you put your jeans on. But you can do that as well. You can take some measurements, and also I think the sleep thing for me is key to. I know straight away when I'm out of balance because I get very tired. Um, so I know if I'm sleeping too much, I'm not ready to get up in the morning. I like morning's my time. I'm like, right, okay, you're letting things get out of control again. So yeah, you need to find your own way within it. But give it a bash, because honestly, powerful and free. My menstrual cycle is about to come, so going to have to. Yeah, that's a good point as well. Um, that the time of your month, make it easy on yourself, not when you're actually craving comfort foods. Okie dokie. Right, well, good luck, team. And just well done for even listening and giving it a bash. That's the step one. You might not be ready this time, but maybe by the next time we do it, you'll be right up for it. And yeah, I was going to take a cottage at Barmoloch if there was enough people wanted to, were interested, but I didn't get any feedback on that, so that option isn't available. Okay, sleep well. Chat to you soon, ciao.